Good evening, guys. Welcome to this update video. I hope you have been having a wonderful Saturday thus far. It is the end of the week and another week is upon us, one where we will be keeping watch on a disturbance, the newest tropical wave to emerge from the African coast. So it's pretty likely that that will eventually be our next named storm for the hurricane season. And there are a lot of questions out there. Will it enter the Caribbean? How close will it get? How strong could it be? So in this video, I'll be covering all you need to know based on the available information. So let's go into it. All right, here we go. We are looking at the graphic here of the North Atlantic, as what I normally start out with in my videos. And to the south of the Cabo Verde Islands, offshore Africa, there we can see all that convection in association with that most recent tropical wave. Let's zoom in. So it's certainly producing some disorganized showers and thunderstorms, nothing defined. And it's a broad low pressure area that's formed within this region. But as it heads generally to the west and eventually west-northwest, it will likely encounter some conducive environmental conditions to result in development. So by around the middle of the week, it could become a depression, maybe even a named storm. Well, it's pretty likely to become a named storm subsequently. And the next name on the list for the season is Jerry. And in terms of the potential track, will the system make a curve before it reaches the Caribbean? Because the curve is expected, but there's no set track on that. And really, no one knows at this point. So that's the best answer out there. No one knows, at least not yet. We'll be looking at some model data as well. But as we drift further west, let's talk about the Caribbean for a moment here. So we can see that it's been a pretty active afternoon. Lots of these little colorful shadings popping up here. So there's been some periods of heavy rain and thunderstorms, especially earlier in the afternoon. And that's nothing out of the norm compared to what is observable at this time of the year. So likely pretty similar story as we head into tomorrow, especially in the afternoon hours where things kick up. So a pretty sunny morning for many islands across the Caribbean. But as the afternoon hours approach, then we could certainly see an increase in rainfall activity and those thunderstorms as well. So especially if you're going to be out at that time of the afternoon, you can just walk with your umbrella in case there's a downpour. But going back to this disturbance here, so the chance has increased since my last update video last evening, now at 60%, just shy of being at that threshold to be considered in cold red or high formation chance. So eventually that is expected though, but imminent formation is unlikely because the system isn't in the most ideal conditions right now, but it's really as it is in the central tropical Atlantic, around this spot here, when it will likely start gaining those characteristics and become a depression, eventually a tropical storm. Now, in terms of the conditions, let's briefly look at that and then we'll go on to some model data and call it a night. So we've got the dry air graphic up first. Now, the dry air is indicated by these shades of yellows, oranges, and reds. So the more of these we see, especially those red shadings, are areas of higher concentrations of that dry air. Now, across the tropical Atlantic, we can see that it's not very plentiful. And right now, the disturbance is south of where some of that dry air is. So it's not going to be encountering too much of that as it traverses the area and heads to the vicinity of the Caribbean or near the Caribbean over the next several days. And then in terms of those upper level winds, let's look at this here. So these red lines indicate areas where the upper level winds are strong or unfavorable to allow for development to happen. And those areas where we see those yellows indicate where it's not really bad, but it's not the best, so kind of neutral. And then those green shadings are where those upper level winds are not too intrusive. They're pretty weak and won't interfere much with development. So ahead of the system, we can see that currently it's not looking too bad out there. So that will certainly aid in development, coupled with the very warm waters which have been persistent throughout the hurricane season. And in terms of trajectory, now we'll be looking at the Euro and GFS ensemble members, and we're starting out with the GFS here. So these different L's represent different members picking up on that area of low pressure possibly developing. Now, we don't have a whole bunch of them available, and these are the ones we're focusing on here. So we can see that there are quite a few that actually take the system into the Caribbean, and also quite a few that keep it outside the Caribbean and show it making a curve sooner. What will determine that curve? Well, it is the strength of the subtropical high pressure area. So that is the Bermuda Azores High. That's what pretty much influences. It's a main influencer of the tracks of these systems throughout the hurricane season. So a weaker high pressure area, or one that is displaced further east, will allow these systems to curve up and around them. But if it's stronger, then it will likely result in more of a westward track of these systems into the Caribbean. So it all depends. And with these plethora of frontal systems coming out the U.S., we tend to notice a trend of a weakness in that area of high pressure, and also a bit of displacement to allow these systems to curve up and out. We've been seeing it a lot this hurricane season. And I was even speaking about it earlier today. It really reminds me of the 2023 hurricane season, where we had a lot of these strong systems being out to sea. And then the Euro members are also showing something a bit similar. We can evidently see a lot more of them being present. Quite a few take the system in, but I want to say that more are keeping it on a track that will miss the Caribbean, which would be the best case scenario. But as I mentioned, nothing is solid this early, and we have a lot of time to keep our eyes on it. So I will continue to do just that for you guys. And that's what I wanted to share with you in this update video this evening. So I trust and hope you found it to be informative. But if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to leave them in the comments. I'll get to you when I can. And remember to always be weatherwise.